German, and all kinds of majors. It's wonderful. And at the end of it, the students can take the class again. It's a watering hole where you don't have to kind of take a class and go on to the next class. You can keep working on other projects, and it's really outstanding. And after you work on a couple times, you say, you know what, I want to be a student lead. And then you join the group up front. So all these students up front were people who took UC Bug, were amazing at it, and said, I want to be part of this family, and now we're the student teachers. And it's an amazing thing. It's just self-running. It's a wonderful process. There's a beautiful pipeline of students to instructors. Two, where do they go after they graduate? I would say 9 out of 10 of them go and get internships or full-time positions at Pixar, DreamWorks, PDI, Lucasfilm, game companies. It's really such a model of success, so I'm really pleased. So I'll get out of the way and let them teach you how to make an animated short film in only 30 minutes. And I'm turning over to Peter, and they're all going to introduce themselves. This is Peter Tsoi, who is the lead of the project. Thank you. Woo! Give me a hand for Peter.
So like Jan said, my name is Peter. I am one of the student instructors of the UC Berkeley Undergraduate Graphics Group. We are a DECAL, which is a very special part of Cal tradition. DECAL stands for Democratic Education at Cal, and it's a program where students that are interested in a topic not necessarily taught by usual faculty at the university can actually get up in front of a class and teach what they're passionate about to fellow students. So if you guys come to Cal, I highly recommend that you take a DECAL or even start your own. So UC Bug was founded in 2001, so we actually did not, we are a continuation of the family that started UC Bug, and it has been a great program. So my name is Peter. I actually worked at Pixar last summer and the summer, 2 summers before that on Cars 2, Monsters University, which is coming out, and Brave, which was released last year. Students like me and some of the other students here on stage have actually worked at some of the animation companies. So we think of ourselves as the people who want to bring animation to a larger Cal community. So today what we're going to do is we're going to make an animated short in front of you in 30 minutes. And to do that, you actually need to start with a story. As we were sitting here earlier, we were brainstorming a story, and I'll actually turn it over to Wesley, who actually drew some storyboards of that movie. Wes?
All right. Hi everyone. I'm Wesley. So we have this, to make a short film, like we have this idea for a story. But before we do anything with a computer, we always start with the 2D. Nothing 3D first, we all start with the 2D. And this is a great opportunity to explore all the artistic aspects, like how is my characters going to look, how are my props. So one of these processes is called storyboarding. And I drew a couple for the story that we came up with for today. And here's just like one panel of it. And the point of the storyboard is just to figure out what your film is going to look like. You just draw it out, and it's just a really quick way to show how you're going to tell your story visually. I mean, this animation is filmmaking. So you can see here, in these first couple of shots, it's just, I'm figuring out where my camera is. It's probably a medium distance away, and we have this character on the right, and some props on the left, which are signs. And this character, the bear, is just walking up to those signs. Now if we go to the next shot, I drew it from a slightly different perspective. We're closer in now, and we're just noticing that the bear has realized there are some signs here, and he's looking at it. So that's a rough idea of the visual storytelling process. And I'm not going to go through the whole storyboards because that'll give away the story. But once we figure out, our props, our characters, we can start going into the computer and making these. So I'm going to hand it off to Jess, who will lead you through actually modeling our characters in 3D.
You guys are going to see a height increase, so I can be seen and heard. All right. So, as Wes said, now that we're done with our character design, we have a good idea of what we want to start modeling. And that's actually the first stage of our animation pipeline. But this really draws on the question, how do we start, right? As you kind of noticed, we had a bear, and he was really cute and cuddly, right? But a bear sounds really complicated. Where do you go about starting with this bear? Rule number 1 about modeling, everything complicated can be broken down into very simple shapes, right? So, if you remember on the storyboards, our bear looked kind of circle-ish, kind of egg-shaped. So what Ryan here is doing, she started with the sphere, and then she began just kind of pulling the faces and the points on this basic sphere to get this egg shape that she wants. You can kind of think about it, has anyone worked with clay before? Yes? Awesome. So you guys know you start with like a blob of clay, right? It's either a circle or a square, you mold it, and then you just kind of pull things and push into whatever shape you want to get it into. And that's what she's going to be doing with, you know, the arms, the bodies, the head, and so forth from there on. One thing to actually keep in mind is that when you're translating from 2D to 3D, there's going to be some slight modifications in the look, but pretty much the goal is to find this balance that you have between 2D and 3D. And we're going to let Ryan just touch up on this, and meanwhile, we're going to move on to some props. So, let's then come back in. Sorry about that.
Shit. So, this is a computer animation film, so basically anything we have in this film, in this case, we want some signs, we have to build. This isn't like live action where we can go and rent out or buy a couple of signs. So we're gonna show you now how we model these props. Same deal with modeling your characters. If you have a very complicated object, you start very simply. So for a sign, we can do something like get a cube and just stretch it out, and it sort of looks like a post. And then if we make another cube and maybe flatten it a little, that'll look like, let's say, the display part of the sign. So we start with two pieces, two cubes, and it kind of looks like a sign. But they're only just two cubes right now, and we want maybe something more sophisticated. So from here, what we would do is, in this computer, we can add like more edges or more corners in there, and then with these corners and edges, we can start pulling and pushing them around, and we can work in more complex shapes to get the ideal sort of design that we want. So yeah, like Kevin had a couple of edges. So here he's just adding these so he gets essentially more edges to work around. He's going to be working on that, and I'm going to pass it back to Ryan. Check on that bear model.
All right, I was peering over for a bit. After some bear, up here. So as you can see, though, oh, there it goes. Not green anymore, but there's our bear. Ryan's worked pretty efficiently, I would say. I hope you guys agree, right? Yeah. All right, awesome. So we have our bear model already in set, right? So now we're going to move on to the next stage of our pipeline, and it's called rigging. And Jeff here is actually going to take over, and he's going to show you guys this process. First of all, how many of you guys heard the term rigging before? A couple of you guys? Sweet, awesome. Well, for those who don't know what it means, it's essentially trying to define how your character is going to move, right? So we have this, our surface, right? We're going to imagine a human body. We have skin, pretty much, and that's all we kind of have. But how is the bear actually going to move? We have to define its skeleton, right, in that sense. So what Jeff is going to do is he's going to add these joints, which will pretty much define how the character is going to move. Will he be able to be like a worm and squishy? Or is he going to be more like a real person, you know, with these limitations that you kind of have in the body? So, see, there you go. One analogy you can kind of think of with rigging is puppet mastering in a sense, or digital puppeteering. Imagine that these points, we're going to later on attach like invisible strings to them so that we can eventually just control how this bear is going to move. So yes, similar to the arms of the modeling process, everything, Jeff has to go in and actually rig the entire body, right? Or else we won't know how this bear is going to move at all. while he finishes that up, we're actually gonna go back and check on that sign because I think Kevin is almost done with it. So.
Nice. That's looking more and more like the really nice sign that we wanted. So Kevin just pulled more verts to get it looking like the sign I drew earlier in design. If you just pull out, it's almost there. How about you move? Yeah. Okay, that's good. Just move that top left vertex, and I think it's nearly there. Nice. Okay, that's the sign we want. Once we get this sign or our props, it's still in this gray block phase. So what we want to do now is just add color to the thing so we can tell that this is a sign, this is an object. So this is the process we call shading. For something like the post, we want to show that it's wooden. So what we can do is just attach a wood grain texture to that post, and the computer will just map out this wood grain all over it, and then we can tell just by looking at it that this wood grain, that it gives us a cue to the audience, oh, this thing's solid, this thing's rigid. For something like the actual display part at the top, it's a little bit more complicated because we don't want, let's say we want the cow logo on it, but we don't want it to map that cow logo all over. We only want it on the front face. So what we have to do for something like this is actually grab that 3D object and unwrap it into a 2D map or net. If you think, again, this sign is a cube, we can unwrap it into a 2D net. And that's what Jason has done here. And you can see that just by putting that cow logo or the graphic we want on the corresponding face, it only shows up on that front face in our 3D model. Yeah, okay. So we need 2 signs for this short, so we're gonna let Jason just make that other one. Meanwhile, we'll check back on if Jeff has rigged that fair.
Awesome. All right. My screen always has some. It's okay. As you can see, without the color fluctuations, right? Jeff has added these controllers to the bear right now. And in essence, this is what the strings are connected to, right? So he's already rigged the entire bear, and yes, as you can see, he can move his whole body, he can move his legs, his hips, and he can position this guy in any way he really wants to, right? Oh, he's so happy. Yay. Okay, but I'm a little jealous of Wes's sign. It looks pretty good, right? But our bear is kind of this gray, kind of boring looking color. So let's kind of give it some life, right? Continuing on with the shading process, what Monica here is going to pretty much do is give the surface a color, right? So as a bear, let's make him a nice brown there. Yeah. Oh, well, okay, since it is cow day, hey Monica, you want to just change it up? So as you can see, it's pretty simple to just change the color of our surface, right? So in our short, if this bear was not a regular golden bear, he could be purple, blue, anything, right, that we want our audience to see. But let's keep him a nice gold color just for today, okay? So now that we have this nice layering color, his eyes need a little bit of work there too. Let's give it a nice fierce black to it. Maybe add a little shine, right? So all objects have different surface types, and in Maya, you can pretty much define like, oh, I want it to be shiny or flat, diffuse. For the nose, let's make it actually like a nice, cute pink. Just my preference. But yeah. I also think the ears should be the same color too. Would you guys agree? Or yeah, a little pink, right? It's okay, she'll change it later. For now. Alright. So we have our shaded bear, but it's missing something. Bears have... I heard it, fur. That's what I was going for. So let's add some fur to this bear. Is it working? Oh, okay. She'll fix that. You'll see the fur in a moment. So, while Monica's actually working on the fur for the bear, we're going to move on to animation.
So now that, let's say, Jeff has built the skeleton and all these controllers for this digital puppet, essentially, we get to move on to one of the funnest part, which is actually animating the thing. So how film or video works is that we show 24 pictures. The standard rate is we show you 24 pictures or frames in 1 second, and if you see the picture move a little between each of those images or frames, you get video, you get motion. So back in the hand-drawn animation era, what would happen is you would have to draw 24 of these pictures to produce 1 second. And then if your film is, let's say, an hour or 2 hours, that requires hundreds of thousands of drawings. So when we're animating in the computer, it's similar in that rather than doing a drawing on every frame, you have these controllers, and so right now our bear is like in this dead T-pose. So what we would do then for our, let's say, instead of drawing the bear in a pose, we just move the controllers and then set a key in the computer. So let's say on frame 1, he's set in one pose, and then let's say a couple frames down, he will be in another pose. So we just set poses along the frames as we go down. And the cool thing about the computer is that we don't need to set a pose for every single frame. We can set it maybe every 4 frames, every 10 frames, and the computer will do the in-between. And what that means is, Linda here is animating. So if she, on the first frame, maybe set the left foot forward in a pose and the right foot back, and then a couple frames down, she does the reverse. So now her right foot's forward and the left foot is back, and we let the computer figure out what goes in between. So the legs will be swinging. Let's play that. There we go. So it's kind of moving. And then if we grab, you can actually grab the whole system of this bear and just translate it out, and set another key there. So what's happening is it'll swing its legs and it'll be translating, and then we get a walk. That's how you do a basic walk. But for something like character animation, if you're thinking about what character's in there and what's walking, there's like a million ways you can be walking. So for animation, when you're trying to tell a story through this character, you have to figure out how this character is going to move. How is he going to walk? If there's an athlete, he might be way more agile and smooth and quick when he walks. If you have a peg-legged pirate, you'll have to figure out how to make him walk on just one leg. For this bear, he's pretty round, he's pretty simple, and he also doesn't have elbows, so we'll just have him swing his arms. And that'll be good for our animation. Let's play it through and see what we got. Okay, it's stuttering a little, but we'll get there. So while Linda's cleaning up the animation here, why don't we check back on those signs, show you that our props are done, and yeah, let's switch computers. Light? Okay.
Alright. Cool. Wait, it's working. we'll get to see them in a moment, and how awesome a job that Jason finished up touching them. But for now, we're going to actually also move on to lighting. So, when you have all your characters and your scenes and your environment set up in your scene, you move on to this stage of the pipeline called lighting. How many of you guys actually work with like dance productions or theater lights and stuff? Awesome. So, really similar idea or process with lighting in this case, right? So, let's actually first check on how many lights we have in our scene. Go ahead, Sherry. Sweet. As you can see, everything is black because we don't have any lights yet, right? Really, the goal with lighting, you really want to be able to show off your environments and your props, and especially your characters. You know, you guys work really hard on it, and you want to be able to show them off. So, Sherry, why don't you go ahead and light the bear? Oh. So, I didn't actually mean light it on fire, but I can guarantee you guys no actual bear were harmed in this process. Okay.
That looks cool. Yeah, it is.
So let's actually remove the danger hazards here and throw in a real light. Please. Awesome. Okay. So as you can see, now we can actually see our characters, right? So with lighting, you really want to be able to make it believable. You want to set the mood. You want to be able to tell your audience where to look in your scene. And with lights, also, as Sherry's doing right now, you can control what kind of colors that affects your sets and objects, right? So if you wanted a more scary kind of feel to your objects or characters, you know, you could put the light underneath the bear and maybe have a red glow to it or something. Kind of get that flashlight effect, if you guys ever tried that. It's kind of creepy, actually. But we'll go on to actually like natural lighting. I think that'd be the better case. Yeah, there you go. And right now, all Sherry actually has is one light source in there. But really, we want to be able to put multiple lights in there that will really bring out like, oh, the character's face or the side of the side. And it's just a bunch of tweaking and playing around with the lights. So from then on, actually, we move on to a process called rendering, which I think Peter will talk about.
So throughout this entire process, you guys have seen us build what is basically a virtual world. We have virtual characters, we have virtual props, virtual lights, and even virtual cameras that we shoot this movie through. The software that we're using is called Maya, and the premise of Maya is you actually create this three-dimensional scene inside of your computer. And once you finish creating this three-dimensional scene, you actually tell your computer to go render it. And rendering is the process of taking that three-dimensional scene and turning it into a pretty picture. Well, hopefully. Being at a university, we actually have access to a large farm of computers that we can actually send this off to and actually have it done in a matter of seconds. But in the real world, when you render a more complicated movie such as Toy Story or Cars, those individual frames can take up to 8 hours per frame to render. If you think about 24 frames per second, that can take more than a lifetime to render. That's why they have entire banks of computers dedicated to this rendering process. So we actually have a preset soundtrack to this, so we're just going to lay that to our renders, which are just finishing up right now. Yes. So if we could pull up our finished renders, that would be fantastic. Part of the reason why we have all these people up here is so that we can all work on it at the same time. Because usually an animated film can take up to 4 years and 1,000 people's work over that 4 years. So I would like to present to you guys a short that we made called Bear Territory. with that, that is making an animated short film in 30 minutes. I'd like to remind you that we are UC Bug and part of the decal program. And if you guys come to Cal, which I hope you guys do, please do consider taking a decal or starting your own. So with that, thank you for coming, and go Bears.